Let's take these kids' app icons and make them horror themed. We're starting easy with balloon pop. First, I'll erase the original balloon and bring in a more realistic one. I'll use the puppet warp tool to bend the string so it fits the actual shape of the original icon. Following that, I need a hand that looks like it's actually holding the string, so I'll bring in an image of 2 fingers pressing together. I'll add a dark background and put a concrete texture on it before adding some blood to the fingers, and finally, I'll add a camera raw filter to give it that grainy look. I'll be impressed if anyone actually knows which horror movie inspired this balloon. I'm guessing it'll go over most of your heads, but let me know in the comments if you're the exception. Anyways, here's the balloon pop, but horror. Let me know if you would let your kids play this. The next icon is kitland, so I'll find a similar font online and recreate the mayonnaise shape. I'll give it a stroke. Hold on, just because this video is horror themed does not mean I'm at a heart attack. Anyways, then I separate it into its own layer so I can easily paint the blood underneath it. But instead of a regular hand, let's give it a skeleton hand. Then I'll enhance the shadows on the bone to give it more depth. Next, I'll make the blood on the sides look more imperfect, like it's actually dripping down the icon. I'll add some shadows around the tip of the finger so it looks like it's actually poking into the blood. Finally, I'll swap the happy apple for a rotten one and fix the highlights. Enjoy your meal. So, here's the horror version of kitland. We still have Brawl Stars and Stumble Guys at the end. For Brawl Stars, I'll start by creating the main shapes for the head, eyes and eyebrows. I'll give every layer a drop shadow to make it look 3D instead of flat. Next, I'll start cutting away parts of the mouth to make it look more gritty and less clean. I'll put a texture over the whole face and add some cracks into the skull, but I'll erase parts of him so it's not too distracting. Following that, I'll do the same for the outer bevel and add some highlights to the face. Now, if you don't want this skull to show up in your dreams tonight, don't forget to like and subscribe. And then I'll add a camera raw filter to bring the colors together, and here's the horror version of Brawl Stars. Next is learning games for toddlers, so I'll find a bathtub that looks like the original but made of old metal. I'll add some water and bring in a duck that looks a little more sinister than the original one. I'll add a bathroom tile background, but I'll swap it out later for one with more cohesive lighting so it fits the scene better. Next, I'll add shadows and highlights to the duck and make the water a lot darker. I'll make a silhouette of the bathtub and use Gaussian blur to create a shadow on the floor. Finally, I'll make the duck's eyes look like they're glowing before finishing with a camera raw filter. We just did what the makers of Donald Duck couldn't do, so here's learning games for toddlers, but Sinister. Now, for kids' coloring pages, I'll start by dropping in an image of a heart. I'll mask out 5 fingers and place them in the same spot as the markers in the original image. You see where this is going? Wink. Following that, I'll bring in a knife and make it look like it's going into the heart by darkening the inside area. I'll put a metal table underneath and refine the mask on the fingers to make them look more realistic. The light source comes from the top, so I shaded it accordingly. Then I desaturate everything so it looks less alive and more gross. Next, I'll add some shadows under the knife and put some blood under the heart, on the fingers and on the knife. So here's coloring pages, just not with markers anymore. Now, for the final icon, Stumble Guys. First, I'll recreate the main shapes for the face, shirt and hands. I'll give him some evil eyes and an evil mouth before shading every layer to look 3D. Then I'll bring in a cap and some jeans and shade them so they match the lighting of the rest of the scene. Next, I'll put a texture on the shirt and paint in some shadows for the folds in the fabric. But he looks too clean, so I'll start erasing parts of the shirt to make it look torn and like he has done some pretty bad stuff. Following that, I'll add dirt textures over his face and hands before adding a bunch of blood around the scene. I'll add some final highlights and put a dark night sky in the background. So here's Stumble Guys, but horror. Let me know which one was your favorite in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, you might like this one too.